Hello and welcome to another Brothers Creed movie review. We're the Thomas Brothers, and I'm Ethan.
And I'm Jared. And today we are talking about the Netflix movie The Glass Onion, which is a Knives Out sequel. Well, kind of a sequel, yeah.
It was kind of a sequel.
With different
yeah,
people.
I mean, it had the
With everybody's different except for the main character,
Benoit Blanc,
James Bond.
Daniel Craig.
Yeah,
All right, well, let's get into it.
let's do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Most valuable commodity I know of is information.
And that, my friends, is called integrity. That's called courage. Now that's the stuff leaders should be made of.
Either you're somebody or you're nobody.
You're not the devil. You're practice.
Okay, so the movie that we're reviewing today is The Glass Onion. Came out on Netflix, I think at the end of 2023, or excuse me, 2022. And it is kind of a sequel, not sequel, just kind of like, I guess, continued in a different storyline in the same universe as the Knives Out movie.
Yep.
That was with Daniel Craig and a couple other Captain America, Chris Evans, I think was in that, and a couple other ones. That was a pretty good movie. I thought that one was good.
That one was pretty good.
So this one, just to give a high-level overview, this is the non-spoiler version, or part of the movie review. So the first about probably 5 minutes or so will be non-spoiler.
Yeah.
And this can be, you can just go on Netflix and see this if you have the subscription. So there are 5 lifelong friends that are all invited to a Greek island home of a billionaire named Miles Braun, who is kind of like their friend. They're all friends. It's a friends group. All 5 of these friends, they know Braun from way back, but they also owe their current wealth and fame and careers to him in one way or another. And so the main event is they're invited to this island. It's kind of like a murder mystery weekend. And the main event is supposed to be the quote unquote murder of Miles Braun, who's the main person.
And he invites them all up to
yeah.
do like to solve this puzzle. They're all puzzle
Yes.
solvers.
Yeah, and so in reality, there are a couple different things that happen, and for a couple different reasons, things go astray, and someone ends up actually dead.
Yeah.
So
Actually, multiple people end up actually dead.
actually, that's true. So definitely an interesting story. The main actors are Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, who's kind of the main detective in there. Edward Norton, good old Edward Norton, is the really rich billionaire Miles Braun. Kate Hudson is like this this like fashionista celebrity lady, and then Dave Bautista is in it. He's like this kind of conservative YouTuber guy who's always carrying around a gun and doing desk pops and stuff. And those are kind of like the biggest names.
Well,
they're
not even the main character. I said the main character is this gal named Janelle Monáe.
Yeah,
She's kind of a small time. She's been in a couple like, I don't know how you would say it, just like kind of like
C-rated movies,
B-rated movies, like Annabelle or like Get Out, or I think just kind of movies like that, where they're just like Tyler Perry type movies. So she's not as popular or well known as like a Daniel Craig or Edward Norton.
Yeah, I thought she did a decent job though. I mean, and we can get into that. So this is I guess the categories of this movie are detective, murder, mystery.
Yeah. So let's go through our rankings here, and then we can dive in and talk about specifically why. I think we're going to differ meaningfully on this one.
Yeah, probably. So we broke it into several different categories. The categories are cinematography, plot and story, acting and actors, political agenda, and then whether it's a Creed building movie or not.
Yeah.
So there's 5 categories. 4 of the categories are scored from a 1 being terrible, a 10 being excellent, and then we'll average those 4 numbers together to get an overall Creed rating.
Without weightings.
Yeah, without weightings.
Someone asked me the other day, they're like, do you
equally important.
Do you weight these differently? I'm like, that's too complex. We're just going to... So we didn't even include the agenda, which is it's just in there verbally. So that's not even included in the score. So the first one is cinematography. What was your score for cinematography? 1 out of 10.
All right, so I gave the cinematography a 6.
Really?
Yeah.
I gave it a 4.
Okay. I mean, I guess we could talk about it just a little bit without giving spoilers.
Well, we just run through, and then we'll run through again, and we'll.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
I don't want to ruin it for you.
So plot and story. So I gave it a 6, and you gave it a 4 for cinematography.
Yes.
Okay, so plot and story. What'd you give it for the plot and story?
I gave it a 5.
Okay, I gave it a 6.
Okay. Acting talent. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 6.
I gave it a 4.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was really only because of Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
It would have probably been at like a 3 or a 2 if it wasn't for Daniel Craig.
Yeah. So for the agenda, I said that, and I have some reasonings behind this, but I said that it was slightly left.
I definitely said it was left. Yeah.
Yeah. I said it was leftward leaning.
Yes. Creed building, I put 3 out of 10.
3? Well, I kind of...
I have many reasons why I think it's a 3 out of 10.
I went maybe a little more positive direction. I put a 6 out of Creed building because I feel like 5 for me is kind of a neutral.
Yeah. I thought it was detrimental to your Creed.
Okay. All right. So for me, my overall rating was I put 6s across the board. So my average score was a 6 out of 10 for the movie.
Mine was a 4 out of 10.
Okay.
So let's go. If you haven't seen the movie, stop now because we're going to get into spoilers.
Yeah. Last question is...
Okay, last question.
Do you think this movie would need to be seen in a movie theater, or is it fine just to watch it at home?
It's fine just to not watch it at all. And also, it's not in movie theaters. And any cinematography rating below like a 7, don't go to the theaters.
Just watch it at home.
Just watch it at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
okay, cool. All right. So from this point on, is going to be spoilers. So we're going to get into a little bit more of the details. So if you haven't seen it yet, drop it, go watch it, and then come back and listen to what Jared and I, the brothers Creed, think about the movie.
That's right. All right. So I think just starting at the beginning, the beginning puzzle scene was so cheesy in my mind.
Yeah, it took a while. The build up for me was kind of lame, to be completely honest. Like they all got the puzzles and they're all on the phone, and then it was like, oh, I mean, it's kind of cool, like this little puzzle thing. And like I would like to be invited to that.
Well, yeah, but like it's like they're all somehow like smart wizards or something like that, and it's like these people like none of them are like that smart. They're all like failed people. Like one point, Kate Hudson's character was like, "Oh yeah, a sweatshop. They make sweatpants there." Yeah. And it's like, okay, but you were like some kind of genius puzzle solver that solved this thing at the beginning.
Well, to look at it right, whenever they were all in that like the call together, she didn't do much. She just was like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah." She didn't really contribute very much to anything. It was kind of the scientist guy that was one of the ones that was making the biggest deal. Oh, and then it was the lady who solved it was Duke, Dave Bautista.
Yeah,
his mom. Remember his mom was like,
it's
a crossword puzzle, or it's a this.
Yeah,
or it's a, she like solved it back behind because they were all too dumb to solve it themselves.
Yeah, so I'm like, this is kind of weird. Yeah. So there was
going to the cinematography.
Okay.
What?
The thing was,
you said 4.
Yeah, I mean, it was like all filmed in just like one spot. I thought it was just kind of like, I don't know. That was kind of just bland. I mean, there was nothing spectacular about it. It was like, even the fire at the end like didn't even look that good.
Yeah, the fire was a little fakey at the end. I said 6 because everything was like, a lot of it was done in like the light, right? Like in the daytime, like there was a lot of like, it was very clear, and it was very, I mean, yeah, there was like some cool scenery and stuff like that, but I think I enjoyed like the actual like filming of it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple shots that were kind of cool that kind of like panned over and caught certain things that were kind of interesting. So that's why I gave it a 6.
Like I thought it was go ahead, yeah.
I just thought it was it was nice and clear. It wasn't like some dark movie that you had to like turn off all the lights and squint your eyes to see what the heck was going on.
Hey man, sometimes that could be good. I mean, it was a light movie, but it wasn't meant to be. It was a very light kind of atmosphere. But also like the CGI like on his like glass onion thing, that was kind of cheesy. And they were like, "Oh, why do you park your car on the roof?" And it's just like, "Oh yeah," like the clues that they laid out in these movies were so obvious. Like it's just like cringe how obvious a lot of the clues were. Like when Bautista, "I don't drink pineapple juice because I'm deathly allergic," and it's like, okay, and then he dies like 2 minutes later.
Yeah. So I guess,
and then the car thing, I'm like, oh, that car's gonna come in somehow. And then it's like, oh, well, I saw the car driving back from her house, and I was like, oh, okay,
yeah. So the plot and story, I said a 6. I felt like the actual Knives Out movie was the original one.
Okay,
the first one.
Yeah,
I thought that one had an amazing plot. I thought that one was really cool. It was kind of like you got to the end and you're like, what the heck,
Yeah.
This one felt much more predictable.
Oh yeah,
like
they telegraphed
much more predictable.
They telegraphed their shot. Yeah.
And so for me, it was just kind of like, I mean, it was entertaining. I liked how they kind of went through the whole movie, and then at the end of everything, of all the stuff that happened, then they kind of started over at the beginning, and it was almost like a second movie of what actually happened. How did people get to where they are, and what happened, and then it brought in stuff from the first part of the movie, which was just like what the outsider would see.
Mm-hmm.
and it like dropped those clues into like, they're like, oh yeah, that's why that happened, or that's why he said that, or yeah, he cut him off when he said that because he was going to say this. And so I kind of liked how it was almost like 2 movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see that, and at one point in the movie, they were trying to like play up like everybody's got reasons to want to kill Edward Norton, and you're like, okay, but like they're all incentivized for him not to die because they're all blood-sucking leeches off of him. So that kind of fell flat, that whole part, like when it shows Bautista hiding in the bushes, and then it shows like someone else
because he was sleeping with his girlfriend.
Yeah, and then it like showed it kind of went around and showed a reason for each of them not to like Edward Norton.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, but they're all like leeches off of his money, so there's no motive there.
Well, and the thing was too is like, okay, well, there's kind of maybe some motive for them to kill Edward Norton's character, but then there's like kind of some motivation for them to kill the other lady, Andy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's like, well, why would they kill Andy? Because I mean, she's already out of the picture and she's not funding them. But then if she actually had that, the note, the original napkin that had the writing on it, that could prove that they all lied in court.
Yeah.
Then that could potentially destroy him. So I was like, well, maybe, somebody else killed her. And so,
yeah.
But I mean, everything pointed to Miles Braun, to Edward Norton's character.
I mean, that was the big reveal, that Andy was her sister. And like, so that was kind of like,
which
cheesy.
I did not see that coming. I did not, like, whenever it got to that part in the movie, it was just like, oh, like that was not like her twin sister. That I did not see that part coming.
Yeah. So let's go through the items. So the plot and the storyline, you give it a 6.
Yeah, I gave it a 6. I said it wasn't near as good as Knives Out. I mean, but it was still entertaining. I still liked how it all unfolded.
So a couple of reasons why I gave it a 5 was because Edward Norton's character, like the movie is based off of your logic. Oh, this is a logical, like LeBlanc is Daniel Craig's character, he's a logical problem solver. So like when we come into a movie like that and you get us in that mindset and then you have all these holes in your story, it doesn't make it's like lets us down. Like Edward Norton's character is like, how did you get together with all these people? And they're like, oh, they're disruptors and they're innovators. But none of them are disruptors, only because, they're leeching off of him and the money that he does and his prowess. And like, how did you get these people together? And it's just like, I thought that was kind of cheesy. I thought that, let's see, I'm trying to look at some of my comments here. I thought that Daniel Craig's character was that was, if it wasn't for him, the show would be probably a 2.0 in my book. He was great. His accent was funny. I mean, like I said in one of my comments, like my review of the whole movie and my quote is James Bond acting funny with a lackluster cast and a try-hard plot. So I think that without him, the whole thing would have just absolutely been horrible.
Yeah, so that's what for acting and actors.
Oh, no, before we go to that one, so like I think like the main part is like I think it tried way too hard to be like mysterious, and it tried too hard to like drop these hints and do all this stuff so that you could just basically read it from the beginning. So I thought it was, and then at the end it was like, oh, there's no really conclusion. It's just like the main girl just loses her mind and starts smashing things, and it's like, oh, this is, I don't know.
I did feel like the ending was kind of like dumb, and the whole Mona Lisa thing. It's like,
oh, so cheesy. It was.
She kind of destroyed his life, right? Because now he's gonna potentially go bankrupt because of this fuel stuff, and then he might get put in jail for losing getting the Mona Lisa destroyed.
Yeah, but like as soon as you saw the Mona Lisa there, I've got it on loan from the Louvre. I could see that coming from a mile away that thing was going to get destroyed. A mile away.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I built a secret
switch so that the
override. Yeah. Override so that we can see it,
Yeah. It's just like they telegraphed. That's what I'm saying. It was a try hard. They're trying too hard to do it. And it was just, they gave up. They showed their hand too early in this whole thing. Anyway, so we can go on to acting and talent. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, so I kind of went in with what you were saying about Daniel Craig. So I gave it a 6. I said there's definitely no Oscars here. I said Daniel Craig is amazing, as always. And then I said Edward Norton was pretty good too. I mean,
Edward Norton was just himself. I heard that's how he normally is.
I just like Edward Norton. He just kind of always plays the bad guy, and he always gets like typecast into these roles, and I feel like he does a good job. I for some reason I'm just not a big fan of Kate Hudson. Dave Bautista's he's kind of funny. He's just like a big like awkward goof. Like I think he does okay. I think he does okay coming from like a wrestling, WWE background. He's kind of like the John Cena, right?
John Cena is better than him, dude.
I don't know. I don't know. He's gotten Dave Bautista's gotten a lot better.
Maybe
since
Guardians of the Galaxy,
some of his first stuff, yeah. But so that's
what's your thoughts on the main gal, Andy, who plays Janelle Monáe?
I had no preconceived idea who she was. I'd never seen her before. I thought that she pulled off the kind of whenever she came back and did like the Southern accent from Alabama and all this kind of stuff. Like I thought she did that pretty well when she went from being like this, homegrown know nothing from Alabama to like this kind of this, really rich type person. That's I feel like her acting breadth was pretty decent.
Yeah, so
I think she did okay.
Yeah, I think I'd have to disagree with you, especially on that one. Now, I gave this one a 4. I thought that, and like I said, Daniel Craig, I think he did good. It's kind of funny to see him in a character that's not like rough and tough, punching in the face, that James Bond. He was charming. Yeah. I think his accent was kind of comical, but he did good. So Janelle Monáe, the girl who plays Andy, she's like the second main character in the whole thing. I thought at the beginning when it like showed her accent, her Alabama, it was so terrible and so cheesy. I was like, is this like a parody or something? I was like, is she trying to talk like LeBlanc, or not LeBlanc, or Daniel Craig?
It's Benoit Blanc.
Benoit Blanc,
so just
yeah.
Blanc.
LeBlanc is from the Friends show.
Yeah.
LeBlanc. Anyway, I was so at the beginning, I was like, dude, she is awful. But she did kind of get better towards the end, but not that much better. Kate Hudson was meh. The girl Catherine Hahn who plays Claire, she's the politician. She's the one from Step Brothers. She was meh. Dave Bautista, him and his like girlfriend were just like both meh characters. So really, the only thing was Daniel Craig and Edward Norton. He was just kind of okay. I mean, he didn't really have many lines. So if one character in the entire show, I mean, I think he did a good job. But other than that, I thought everybody else was just kind of like meh. So that's why I gave it a 4.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's go to the agenda. You said slightly left?
Yeah, so I said slightly left for a couple different reasons.
Yeah.
So it went, I guess I'll say a couple of the reasons why I thought it was feeling more left, right? First off, it was kind of like during the pandemic and everybody's wearing masks and
like when they get
blah,
that
blah, blah,
vaccine
blah, blah.
shot that they just take, and all of a sudden it makes everybody healed, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, what's in that? And it was just like, just take it, right?
Yeah.
So that was one thing that was left. Whenever Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig is at the beginning, he's like in the bathtub or whatever. I guess he is gay and like he's like living with the man in the apartment, and so they kind of like pushed that a little bit. Which, whatever, but so there's a couple of things that were kind of pushing it left for me, but a couple of things that I think kind of saved it in from the slightly left is I liked how they exposed a lot of like the corruption that exists, right? So especially around the politician, the one lady who was the governor.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like whenever one guy dies, she's like, oh no, I can't be here. This is going to be, all over the news, bad publicity. Right. But really she's just like a miserable, like nasty drunk of a person.
Yeah.
But then whenever she goes on, on TV, she's just like, oh, hi, the most chipper person in the world. Like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, it kind of broke it down. It's like, man, all those politicians is just like, and maybe this is not left as much as I felt like it kind of brought it back to center, was that it kind of exposed that it's all about reputation. Doesn't matter about what you believe. They're all these politicians are kind of just conniving for status and power, and you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. The Nancy Pelosi's of the world that sell $3-4 million of their Google stock right before there's a big announcement of some legislation that makes the stock market tank, right? They're all in freaking bed together, and it's all about reputation and perception. It's not about who really these people are. I mean, sometimes it is, but I kind of liked how they brought that into it a little bit.
Yeah, I can understand that. I also thought it was left for the reasons we discussed, but also like, I think of all the people that were there, there's like the smart, dashing black guy who's like a scientist engineer, and then there's the politician lady, and then there's the other black lady who is like the hero of the show, and she, her and LeBlanc were the heroes of the show, but she was more the hero of the show. I mean, she was the main character, right?
Yeah. And then you had the ditzy white lady.
And then you had the ditzy white lady who, well, I guess the other politician was white, but like she was a movie star, all this kind of stuff. And then you have this idiot oaf of a guy, white guy, and then
who's
you have
supposed to be a conservative. Well, I would
the
say
conservative Dave Bautista,
white,
and then
he's supposed to be a conservative. Goof.
And then Edward Norton is another just absolute idiot. And obviously, it's not all the white guys in this movie are bad, but like because LeBlanc is Daniel Craig's Blanc is he's obviously the good part of the movie, but I just thought it was like a little bit like making a caricature, and Dave Bautista's character was the only one who like was kind of a failure. Like he was trying to get on the YouTube. He's living with his mom, and he's like, "Oh, mom, I'm making a video," and he's just like carrying his gun and his like Speedo, and he's in the pool, and it's just like, come on. So I thought that was kind of like they were just kind of making a caricature out of how crazy these left wing, like these right winger, gun toting Second Amendment lovers are, and it's just like, okay,
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
I don't know. That's why I said left. I mean, I wouldn't say far left, but I would just say left.
Yeah. Okay.
So Creed building. What do you think?
So this was an interesting one. For Creed building, I said a 6 because I really just think it's cool how Benoit Blanc, the detective, he just was like his situational awareness, right? His like observation skills, his, he was constantly observing what was going on. He was constantly hearing what people were saying. He was listening. He was aware. He was intent. And so that to me was something that was like, like I watched the movie and there was a lot of things that he said that came out at the end that I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that. I didn't realize that. And it's just right in front of my face.
Yeah.
And so, I said it was a little bit of a Creed builder in the sense of like, maybe be a little more observant of what's around us in our environment.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see a lot more, not only about what's going on, but who people are.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I think that aspect did kind of exist. I gave it a 3 because I felt like pretty much everyone in the movie was just like a cesspool of a person.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
All these friends are so fake, and like they're all trying to get something out of him, or trying to dodge. Like Kate Hudson's character, she's
responsibility.
Yeah, she's trying to dodge responsibility for having her sweatpants made in a sweatshop. The politician is trying to just always worried about like not getting caught or whatever. And then Dave Bautista's character, he's literally like prostituting his girlfriend out so that this guy can put him on a news site. And it's like, okay, so there's like no moral basis in any of the characters in this whole thing. Even LeBlanc at the end, he's like, oh, I mean, maybe he has a little bit. He's like, oh, well, the police handles all this kind of stuff, and they're on their way. So I was like, okay. And then like the main girl, Andy. Okay, going back to the plot for a second, it doesn't make any sense why he would send a box to Andy if he knew that he had already, if he had killed her.
I asked my wife that same question, and we kind of looked it up a little bit, and I think the reason why is because he mentions that those boxes take so long to make, and so he was like, those boxes have been, I think that it took like a year to make all those boxes or something like that, and so I think that's why one got sent to her.
And he couldn't call and be like, yeah, she's on my bad list, don't invite her now, or I killed her, like, don't send the box.
Yeah, I killed her, don't send the box.
So it was like, okay, why did he even send that to her? I didn't understand why that was even sent to her. But anyway, going back to like the Creed building, so, and it was just like, this is kind of plot related, but at the end, like, the main Andy character, she just loses her mind and just starts breaking everything and lighting stuff on fire. And then, like, all the characters had this, like...
basically just throws a temper tantrum.
Yeah, she throws a temper tantrum at the end. And, like, somehow that's rewarded or seen as, like, oh, you're so good. And also, like, she was rewarded by throwing a temper tantrum and just breaking all the glass and then lighting his house on fire. It was like, oh, man. And then everybody else only came to this moral reckoning of, yeah, we're not gonna, they all came together and said, oh yeah, I saw that you burned it. And it was like, okay, only after you basically have the cord has been cut and you're gonna get nothing. Only after you realize you're gonna get nothing do you have this moral realization that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it did kind of at the very end. It was like, oh, they had like, a change of heart or whatever. It was like some like overcoming, this being a terrible person. But really, the only reason why they did that was
because the
because
gig was up.
they didn't want to be tied with
The ship as it sunk.
the other guy. Yeah, with the Edward Norton's character because he was going to be tied to all this bad stuff, and so it's just like they just like flip flop sides to whichever fits them best.
Yeah, and like also like remember when Dave Bautista was like, "Oh," he saw his phone and he was like, "Oh," like his phone kept buzzing, and I was like, "Okay, this is gonna be something." It was like that whole scene when his phone kept buzzing and they were all drinking and sitting around. I was like, something's gonna happen in like 2 seconds. And then he was like, "Oh, this is great. This is gonna put me on Alpha News." But it was that article that Andy had died, and apparently what he was actually trying to do was blackmail Edward Norton,
the main guy,
at that point, to say, because he knew that Edward Norton had came out of that house. So, and then
because he almost ran him over with his car.
Yeah, and then he got killed, and then so I was kind of just like, and then the whole time apparently his girlfriend had been receiving flowers and all this kind of stuff from Edward Norton. So Edward Norton didn't even like them either because he was taking advantage of them too.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't feel like it was like something like, oh, this movie inspired me to be a better person. I'm like, this movie is basically a basket of deplorables. As Hillary Clinton
basically.
says.
Instead of the disruptors, it's the deplorables.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my Creed building score. So overall, I give it a 4. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So you said your quote earlier.
Yeah. You want me to say it again?
Quote.
Or, okay,
yeah. You go ahead and say your quote again.
I just said James Bond acting funny with a lackluster cast and try hard plot.
Pretty good. So mine was mystery murder that gets solved twice. Entertaining depiction of Clue in real life.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can see that. So you overall, would you recommend watching it, or would you recommend pick something else?
Well, I mean, I thought it was entertaining. I like Daniel Craig's character. I thought it was funny. It's not one of those movies that I'm going to put on the shelf and watch once a year. I think it's worth watching once and saying, "Huh, that was interesting," and then probably never clicking on it again.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably say just
if
don't.
you have a different option,
just go watch a James Bond again. Just go watch Skyfall again.
Yeah.
You know, if you want some Daniel Craig, go watch
Casino
Skyfall
Royale.
again.
I was
Casino
like
Royale. That was a good one. Yeah, the bad guy was good in that one too.
Yeah.
I like Skyfall because he does like a Kevin McAllister like home traps, kind of at the end there.
Yeah. In like the old home that he grew up in.
Yeah. So, well, that's been a movie review of The Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. So it's on Netflix. So now you know. Let us know what you think. If you agree with our review, let us know on Instagram, where we'll post our poster for Ethan and I's reviews. And let us know what movies we should do next. We're always thinking about movies. Actually, next we're doing Creed 3.
Yeah.
So we're excited for that. That should be good. It comes out in March. So
yeah, I think it's going to be good. Let us know if you like any movies, or let us know what you thought about this movie. Do you agree with our scores? Would you give it a better score or worse score? Let us know. We'd be curious to see.
All right. Let's go ahead and build that Creed together.
All right, let's do it.